Okay. I'm glad to see some new fresh faces on here. It's very nice because it's a good topic to cover with especially newer agents because there's just some things we don't think about when we're working with our buyers. So I'm going to get started and we'll go over what to do when we're working with our buyers.
Morning, Anna.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good.
I know I'm not Anna, but it's okay. So, rules for working with our buyer clients. Okay. We know the number one rule is we have to ask if they're working with any other agents first. We have to make sure that they don't have a buyer representation agreement in place with any other agents. So, this is especially true when we have our listings. A lot of times people will call us off our ads online or MLS listing. They come to our open houses. We want to make sure that we're asking if they're working with any other agents because we don't want to violate that buyer representation agreement. The last thing we want to do is lock in a sale and purchase something for our client and then realize that we're going to have to share half our commission because they did have a BRA in place with someone else. You can go and check the registry online. You can search for the client with their name and their phone number and their address. But not always do realtors put it into the system. I really think they should make it mandatory for us to use the buyer registry because then we'd have a good source, a good place to go and check and make sure that people aren't working with other agents. And just aside from asking, so a lot of times when you ask people, they don't always give you an honest answer. Maybe sometimes they're not aware that they've gotten to a buyer representation agreement. So what happens very often is if they've worked with another agent and they've seen a bunch of homes and they come to the point where they're putting in the offer for that person, they don't realize that the agent's tucked in the BRA with the offer there. So a lot of times people don't realize they've signed it. These BRAs aren't getting explained properly 100% to the clients. All right. The other thing we want to make sure we're doing is pre-qualifying our clients. That's a no-brainer, but it sounds like a no-brainer, but really you have to think about it. Just because your client tells you that the budget is 800,000, the last thing you want to do is go shopping for a house, get an agreed purchase a sale, and then realize when you go to the mortgage agent that they're really only approved for 750. So a lot of people will think that's what their budget is or think that's what they can afford monthly, but you definitely want to make sure that they've already spoken with a mortgage broker, that they already have their mortgage in place or they already have their pre-qualification in place. Okay. The next thing you want to do is discover their motivation for buying. So this is how you place your warm leads and your cold leads and your hot leads and who you're going to work with, and how you don't let the ones that are important slip through the cracks. So if you ask them, why are you moving? And they say, you know what, I just got a job. I have to move from Toronto to Brampton and I start that job in June. You know that you're going to put that person on the top of your priority list. If you let that client fall through the cracks and you're not on them daily, sending them listings, trying to find something suitable for them, that buyer is definitely going to fall through your fingertips because they're going to get impatient because they really have a really strong motivation to be moving in the near future. So you want to make sure that you're finding them something and you're staying on top of them. Whereas, your client that says, I don't know, I kind of like to downsize in the near future, might not work so actively with that buyer right now, right? So you got to prioritize your buyers according to their motivation, right? Discuss the difference between deposits and down payments. So you guys know the difference between deposit and down payment, right? Everybody know online? Okay, so I have seen too many new agents get trapped up with their clients because they don't know the difference between a deposit and a down payment, right? So you have to kind of have a little powwow, a little sit down with your buyers when you first start working with your buyers, and you have to explain to them, okay, you know what? You're looking for something in the $1 million range right now. Generally, we collect a deposit that's about 5%. 5% of the purchase price is what most sellers are looking for, mostly because it covers the commissions, but also because it's a substantial amount that you're not going to walk away from. So once the agreement of purchase and sale is decided on, it's agreed upon, and it's final, they want that deposit in their office within 24 hours. Okay. A lot of times I've heard new agents, they lose a deal because they don't explain this to their clients. They work really hard. They've shown them 10 houses. They purchase the house. Now that deposit has to be there within 24 hours and they turn to their client and they say, okay, I need a draft. And that client says to them, oh, well, I bank at Tangerine. I have to order a draft. It takes a week to come. Or my money is sitting in bonds or GICs, and I have to take that money out, and it's going to take a week or two for that to happen. So you're going to lose on that property that you just purchased for them, because that deposit has to be tangible, has to be something that they can grab within 24 hours. Okay. A lot of these bidding wars, they even want the deposit herewith, which means that you're going to get them to create a draft to that brokerage before the offer is even accepted and give it with the offer. Right. So you really want to make sure that your clients understand, because a lot of them say, oh, my agent says, you know, I need 100,000. My mortgage agent says I need $100,000 down. Yes. Okay. But 20,000 of that we need like in our hands now. Okay. You want to make sure they're not like waiting on the sale of their home or anything to get that tangible amount out either. So you want to keep your appointments. You want to be on time. That's a no-brainer. Nobody likes waiting. Your clients will get really easily annoyed if they're constantly waiting 20 minutes every time you want to go show them houses. They're sitting out front waiting because you're late. So be on time. You want to establish a needs versus wants list. Again, it sounds like a no-brainer, but it's super important, okay? So you have those clients that just are looking for, you know, everybody wants the mansion. They always say they have champagne wishes with a beer budget, right? So they want their finished 2-bedroom basement apartment with kitchen, fully renovated. They want nothing to do, and their budget is $850. Well, where are we going to move for $850 for all of that stuff nowadays, right? So you want to say to them, okay, what's your needs versus wants list? Well, I really, really need to have my kitchen and washrooms done, because when I move in, I don't want to do anything. But you know what? Eventually, I'd like to rent the basement. You could say to them, okay, well, you know, perhaps within the budget, we can find something that has an unfinished basement or a basement that needs some reno. And then once you move in, you can fix that up over time and have that rental potential down there for you. So what's the needs versus wants list? Or sometimes your clients say, look, I really need that basement apartment to help me fund the mortgage. I can't carry the mortgage without it. Well, that's a definite need, because, you know, you need it to help you carry the mortgage monthly, but your want is that you want it fully renovated. Well, we're not necessarily going to fall in that category with the budget that we're working with, right? So you really have to establish their needs versus wants. Okay. Always get your buyer representation agreement signed. Now, this is really difficult. I know when we go over buyer representation agreements, we talk about getting them signed at the earliest possible moment. It's a difficult thing to do, because when you take a client out for the first time, they won't necessarily sign it right away the first moment that you're showing them a property, right? You generally, like I say, at the time of putting an offer in, that's when most agents get their buyer representation agreement signed. But the thing is, the trap you fall into is when you're doing that, if your client veers off, or if you don't pay attention to them for a moment and they go and they ask another agent to show them a property, that agent happens to put an offer in, you have nothing in place to protect you. Okay. So the buyer representation agreement protects you from showing 40 homes and then your client goes and shows one with another agent and buys that one. Well, you just lost all that time and energy. Okay. So you want to make sure you're getting it signed at the earliest possible convenient time with your client. You want to put it in front of them a couple of times, make them comfortable with the document, explain to them that this is saying that, you know, it's not only protecting me, it's protecting you as well, right? Because it means that I have your best interest in mind and I'm representing you in this transaction. So I want to remind your clients not to call the listing agent directly if they see ads or for sale signs. So trick with working with your buyer. I always tell them, you know what, if you see something go up in your neighborhood, if you see a for sale sign up, if you see, you know, something online, call me. I'll give you all the information on it. I want them to make sure they're establishing a rapport with me. I'm your agent. Call me. You got to train them not to call that listing agent, because very, very often they get trapped in that and they think that, oh, if I buy with the listing agent or if I deal with the listing agent directly, I might get a better deal on the property. So you want to just remind them, call me directly. And then remind them of open house protocol. So this falls into that listing agent category. Very often, if I have clients who I know are going to a lot of open houses on the weekend because they're just actively looking, and, you know, maybe hubby and wife are going out on every Sunday and checking out all the open houses that happen in their area, I give them a stack of my cards, because what I want them to do is go and drop it at the open house. But if you can't even do that and you just happen to be on the phone with them and they want to walk through an open house, if you're unable to make it, you have to remind your clients that they have to let the listing agent know that they have an agent. They already are represented by a buyer agent. So you want to let them know that they have to let the listing person at the open house know that. Okay, because the way it works with offers is that whoever introduced that person to the property, they're the one that has the rights to commission. So if that agent can say, hey, you know, I was at the open house, I introduced them to the property, they never mentioned they had an agent, you can't turn around and give me an offer now, right? Like they're going to argue commission with you at the end of the day. And then just make sure you know your client's expectations. Again, that's a no-brainer. Make sure you know what they're expecting of you. Do they want follow-up every day? Do they want to be receiving, you know, up-to-date live listings as they pop up? Or maybe they don't want to be bombarded by emails because they're passively looking. You kind of have to know and measure their expectations of you. Okay, so that's the first brief thing I like to go over. Just some things, some pitfalls that I find we newer agents have fallen into when working with their buyers. Let me just go here. Have you guys found it difficult to work with buyers lately? Have any of you tried doing any showings, entertain any offers with the bid situations right now? Okay, I'm just going to open up that. Oh, that's the agreement of purchase and sale. I'm going to find a buyer rep for you guys. I just want you guys to take a quick look at it. For those of you who haven't had access to the MLS yet, or who haven't had a chance to see what web forms looks like, I'll just go in there real quick. Just remember, as soon as you get your access, you can come in and we'll do some training and we can get into, I can show you where the kits are and where to find your forms. I'm just going to log in real quick here though to show you what that BRA looks like. Let it load there. Everybody coming to Realtor Fest tomorrow? Realtor Quest? Who's coming tomorrow? Here's MLS. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go into web forms here and I'm going to pull up a BRA so you can see what it looks like. And stop the share and come back just in case you guys are missing it there. Okay. Stratus is slow this morning. Did someone put in the chat that web forms was working really slow last night or something? I think it's still slow this morning. Yeah, like it's just not loading. Come on. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to pull up a BRA here real quick. Okay. So everyone sort of asked me what's the difference between Brampton, Durham, Northumberland when you see all these different forms in here. They're just logoed differently. Really anyone is okay to use. It's just logoed differently at the top of the form. The content is still there, what you need in a BRA, but I'm just going to open up this one for Ontario so you guys can see it real quick. So this is what a BRA looks like. You're going to get this sign from your clients. Basically, you're putting it's between the brokerage, so Remax Ace Realty, right? And our address, if you want to put our address in there. Luckily, mostly everything is autofill here. Our telephone and our fax number, and you're going to put your buyer information in here. So their name, their address, okay? And then commencing at, so this is the problem. When you are signing the BRA, the day that you're putting in the offer for your client, you're not supposed to backdate your forms. So basically you're only saying, today I want to put it in an offer on 123 Main Street, and I'm going to get my client to sign that BRA today when they sign the offer. What's the problem with that? Say the offer for 123 Main Street doesn't get accepted today, but yesterday you showed them 234 Smith Street, right? Now they're going to go back and they're going to talk to that listing agent because they're kind of disappointed that you didn't get the offer accepted today. And tomorrow now 234 Smith Street, you don't have a BRA dated for yesterday, right? And they go back to that listing agent. Now they purchase that one that you went and showed them yesterday, or the open house that they walked through last weekend. They say, you know what, we walked through that open house last weekend. We really like that property. They call that listing agent. You've only signed the BRA today. Say you've shown them 20 properties in the last 2 weeks, okay? It's the issue with getting the BRA signed at the moment of doing the offer, okay? So it's a little difficult because you, especially with Authentisign, you can't fake that you're backdating these documents. So it gets to be a tricky situation. So the most important thing is that you should be trying to sign it at the earliest possible moment. Okay, so you're just going to say, okay, you know, today is the 16th at 2 p.m. I showed my client this property. I'm going to put here that's 2 p.m. and I'm going to get them to sign it. And normally we're putting a 3-month contract in. So we just go 1, 2, 3, right? And I'll pick August, say 31st here. Okay. Why would you make your client sign longer than 6 months? So the next one says that they have to initial here to acknowledge that they're aware that you're locking them into a BRA for longer than 6 months. The reasons I would make my client sign for longer than 6 months is probably because they're looking for something very specific. So I had a client last year, she was looking for a bungalow close to her daughter in an area where there was next to no bungalows. Literally, there was maybe one on every sort of street, like 1 or 2 sprinkled in to every street. It was very 2-story popular area. So in that instance, I definitely would say to my client, hey, you know what? I'm going to sign you for longer than 6 months because you're looking for something very specific. It doesn't come up that often and you're in no rush right now to purchase, right? So those are the reasons why, but then you have to get your client to sign here saying that they acknowledge that they know that you're signing them for longer than a 6-month contract, okay? And then here, most of the time, we're looking for single family residential. As you can see, sometimes it might say "and vacant land." Okay, so say you have a client, I want to buy a house, but you know, if you could find me a lot, I'll build on it too. I really want to flip an old house or build on a vacant lot. So there you could put single family residential and vacant lot, just whatever pertaining to what you're signing. Try to make it specific to your client, right? And that way it'll cover you. Now, geographic location. Geographic location, I like to be a little tricky with, okay? So you can see these are it's my laptop I'm using right now. This is normally what I type in. And you can see I have a habit of always putting "and surrounding area," "and surrounding area," "and surrounding area," no matter where they're looking. Northumberland, Hastings, Peterborough, Kawartha Lakes. I have a client looking at all of these, and surrounding area I put. So why do I put that? Because our clients often tell us, look, I'm looking in, I want Scarborough. Okay, great. We're looking at Scarborough and say I put Scarborough only here, okay? Now my client decides to, you know, follow an ad, call a listing agent, go to an open house, whatever, and they just go right just over the border of Scarborough and they go, you know, it's close enough to Scarborough. It's way the west end of Pickering. It's right near the last exit of Scarborough. I'm going to buy here, and they buy in Pickering, okay? Again, you have this client, you've shown them 20, 30 homes, you spent a lot of time with them, but now they've purchased Pickering and Pickering is not on your BRA. You don't have a claim with that client. You cannot chase commission for that, okay? So if you put something like Scarborough and surrounding areas or GTA and surrounding areas, there's a higher percentage that you're going to be okay with that person and your BRA. Everybody understand what I mean online? Okay, good. And then the rest of them are pre-printed clauses. I'm not going to go over every single pre-printed clause. You should have a basic understanding what they mean, though, if your clients ask you about them. So you read them over, and if you don't fully understand what they mean, we can go over them. And then here, it just says that, say they purchase something off MLS, say it's private or goes to somebody, one of those mere postings that aren't offering commission. You're going to put in here the standard commission, which means that the buyer would then be responsible if for some reason the seller is not paying commission. So say they bump into for sale by owner who's only offering 1%, your buyer is agreeing that they'll pick up the rest to get you to 2.5%, right? So 2.5% plus HST. Or, you know, you can put in here a lease commission of half month's rent if you're working with a lease, okay? Because this BRA is for purchase or lease, authority for purchase or lease. Okay, and then here for holdover, we put 90 days. Does everybody understand what the holdover period is? This is kind of a confusing thing I find that I like to explain over and over again so people understand. So the holdover period is basically, okay, if you're a listing agent or if you're a buyer agent, 90 days after that listing has expired. So say this listing had 3 months, January, February, March, okay? And say at the end of March, it expires. From the end of March, so April, May, June for another 90 days until the end of June, you still have claim if you've shown the person that property. Okay, so it's for the duration of the listing and 90 days after. That's what the holdover of 90 days is, right? Everybody understand that? And then you get to the signature. Every page needs an initial from you, and you're signing on behalf of the brokerage, and your buyer signing. And then you're going to have your client acknowledge at the end here that you've given them a copy. So if you're doing some paper, you have to print twice. If you're doing it to Authentisign, it'll kick a copy to them automatically once they signed it. Usually I still send an email with a PDF to my clients because they don't always realize that link is there where they have access to the document, but they have to know that they've signed it at the end of the day, right? Okay, so that's the quick explanation of the BRA to sign with your clients. It's a good document that really protects you and can save you at the end of the day. Because you won't be surprised how many times, especially as a newer agent, you'll learn and you'll remember I said this. You work and work and work with a buyer and you're thinking you're doing an excellent job, and you go and you show them 15 or 20 homes, and it's going to happen. I would guarantee you at least once or twice in your career. And you turn around and you realize that that person's gone quiet for a week. I haven't heard from them, and they went and they bought another property, right? You have no claim if you haven't signed this BRA. So use it, protect yourself, and make sure that you're working closely with your buyers. You're not letting them slip through the cracks. The biggest mistake we make as realtors is not being organized and doing our follow-up with our clients and keeping on top of our clients, right? So we have to make sure that doesn't happen. But at the end of the day, the BRA was put in place for that reason, to protect us, right? Okay, so I'm just going to leave this page here. I'm going to go on Stratus for a second to show you guys. Okay, if it wants to load, just keeps on wanting to be glitchy. Stratus is being funny the last couple of days. They must be doing some updates or something, because I find it's just being really more touchy than it normally is. Super, super slow. Okay, let me try that one more time. I'll click again. Okay, if it's going to be touchy, then maybe I'll go over deposits quickly. I just wanted to show you guys the buyer registry. Okay, I guess we'll try to come back to it because Stratus isn't cooperating with me. Try one more time. Oh, there we go. So we have this at the left-hand bar here. You see it says buyer registry service. Okay. So in here, you can go and you can add your buyers. You can also search for buyers. Okay. So say you have a new buyer that you're working with and you're unsure, you feel like they might have been working with another agent, or maybe they tell you truthfully, I'm not sure if I've signed a BRA with my other agent. Okay. You can go in here and you can add, or you can search. So I'm going to go search for a buyer name. Now, I don't particularly have one that I know that's in here. So I'll just put myself in. So you just put Christine Bolin, and you see you have to have some information, right? So you have to put in their street number, their street name, their phone number. You have to have information on this client to search them. And then you're just going to click submit and see whether or not they show up in that buyer registry search. Like I say, they should really make this mandatory that we go and we put in all our buyers so we can really hone in and make sure that our buyers don't have agreements signed with other agents, but they haven't made it mandatory yet. But I think it's a good habit if you go and you check, because then if you run into any trouble, even if you just take a quick screenshot, you can say, no, I double checked with this client and they weren't in the buyer registry service. And you know what the funny thing is too, when anybody has a little fight about commission between two agents, it's one of the first things they ask you as the buyer agent, did you put them in the registry? So I really don't know why it's not mandatory yet, but try and make it a habit to go put your buyers in there. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about deposits now. We were talking about telling our clients the difference between deposits and total down payments. Okay. So some important things to keep in mind about deposits for our clients, because a lot of them don't understand how important the deposit is. Okay. So when must the deposit be paid under the Ontario real estate contract? Okay. In the standard agreement of purchase and sale, it says to pay it immediately when you present the offer. So herewith. So we were talking about that happening a lot lately now with the bidding wars that are happening. The way to win a bidding war right now is to have that deposit right there and ready. Even if you don't win, it's only cost you what, $10 for the draft for your clients. Just get them to get it because it'll give you that edge. Okay, it'll give you that little edge to win the bid war right now. But pay immediately, so herewith our offers, or to pay within 24 hours of acceptance of the offer. So we're talking about warning our clients about having funds ready within 24 hours to pay after the agreement of purchase and sale has been signed and finalized. So most buyers prefer the second option, obviously, because they know it's accepted and then they can go to the bank and they don't have to waste the money. But like I say, if there's a house that they absolutely want that's having a bidding war, it's a good edge for your clients to have. Okay. Can a buyer just cancel the deal by refusing to pay the deposit after the deal is accepted? So the answer is no. Okay. Once the deal is accepted, you cannot change your mind. If you do, the seller can sell the property again. And if they obtain less money than you were going to pay them, the seller can sue you for the difference plus legal fees. So we see this happen very often. And honestly, we try to keep it nice for our clients. If I have a listing that somebody doesn't bring the deposit for. So I have an example. I sold a house in Markham once, and I had an agent in the driveway with the deposit in hand. And I had another agent on the phone who was negotiating during the bidding process. And my clients wanted the person on the phone because they were offering $10,000 more on the purchase price. And it was a pretty big purchase price. I think it was like, 1.4, 1.3, somewhere around that range. So $10,000 shouldn't have mattered that much. And I said to them, look, if you don't take this $10,000 more, take the second offer, the second highest offer, because their agent is in the driveway with the deposit check in hand. I'm like, so they're ready to go. Okay. My clients thought, no, we're going to take the 10,000 more. What happened was the next morning I come and that lady never showed up with the deposit. That agent wasn't answering my phone call. By noon, I'm thinking, yeah, this is a dead deal. Nobody's answering me. Nobody's letting me know what's happening. So I called the second runner-up, and the second runner-up said, okay, yeah, but my client's not willing to offer as much. And they ended up taking their price down 10,000, additional 10,000. So instead of losing just the 10, they lost 20 at the end of the day. But that person came in with the check they still had from the night before for the deposit. So they can't just cancel the deal that way. You have to try and sort things out for your clients, but we have to remind our buyers that it's a legal contract that they're signing, okay? And it's serious. You can't just do that. Sometimes it works out like it did. If you have a listing agent like me who kind of just makes everything work out, those people got away free and clear. Nothing happened to them. We didn't chase them. But imagine you have a seller who's really desperate to sell or really needs to sell or has been having difficulty selling, and you have that buyer back out of that contract and now they're having trouble selling again. They're most definitely going to come after your buyer. And your buyer can say, oh, well, I didn't bring the deposit. It doesn't matter. They're still legally bound to the contract that they're signing. At the end of the day, these agreement of purchase and sales that we're signing just seem like paper to us over time, but we have to remind ourselves and our clients that they are a legally binding document. Okay. They can absolutely be sued after the fact if they don't bring the deposit in. Okay. What happens if the deposit is paid late? So I had this happen last week with one of our agents and actually worked in his favor. If you're late with the deposit, the seller has the right to cancel the deal. This is because all time limits matter in real estate contract. And if you're late, even by a few minutes, the seller can try and cancel, especially if the seller knows there's another buyer out there who will pay more money. If you need more time to come up with a deposit, it's wise to say so in the offer prior to acceptance. So if you need a little extra time because your client is moving funds or something, you have to write that in and Schedule A or something and put a clause in. This actually just happened last week to one of our agents. He called me and he says, what do I do? He says, I got an offer accepted on Saturday and it's Monday now and they haven't brought me the deposit, but somebody else has sent me an even higher offer. And I told them, oh, shoot, I accepted an offer and I'm waiting on deposit. How long do I wait? And I said, is it a lot more? He says, yeah, I want to accept the other offer. So I said, okay, well, let's do this count. What time did you sign the agreement on Saturday? He says, I don't know, about 2 p.m. Okay. I said, well, it's 3 o'clock now on a Monday. As far as I'm concerned, their deal is dead. They have 24 hours, and we always exclude that Sunday because most banks aren't open. We used to exclude Saturday too, but we're fortunate enough to have the banks open on Saturday now. But 24 hours, within 24 hours of acceptance of that offer, the deposit has to be at the brokerage in order for that contract to still be live. If it's not, then the deal is dead. The agent can go and accept another offer. Okay. And ironically, the agent did come into our office later that afternoon with the deposit check, and we refused it because we said, sorry, we accepted another offer. Okay. So time is of the essence in our contracts. You have to be mindful of them, and you have to have that deposit there within the 24 hours. Okay. How much should a buyer pay as a deposit so the seller will feel secure that the deal will close? So we usually use around 5%. They're saying in Brampton, the statistics are that they use closer to 2%. I'm not sure that's so true right now with all the bidding war still happening again. Basically anything is fine. We use the general rule of 5% because it covers the commissions at the brokerages. So the listing brokerage doesn't have to wait for funds to come from the lawyer or the sale of the house or anything. And then we're not shuffling around so many funds when you have that 5% sitting there, right? If it is completely impossible, you can try and get away with less. As the buyer agent, we always try to get away with a little less deposit, but usually a good listing agent will ask to strengthen it to show more. And why are we putting deposits down? Because yes, we have our word that we're going to stick to the deal. Yes, we have that legally binding contract, but when you put that little meat in the game, that little money in the game that they don't want to walk away from, there's more of a promise that that deal is going to go through, because most people won't walk away quickly from $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 what they put in as a deposit. Okay. Why can't a deposit be paid to the seller instead of the seller's instead of the seller's agent? Okay. Why don't we just pay sellers directly? It's going to be their money at the end of the day, right? If the seller goes bankrupt or disappears off with the deposit, the buyer is not protected. When the deposit is held by the real estate brokerage, it's held in trust, also protected by insurance. So even if the brokerage goes bankrupt, the buyer can get their money back. Okay. So all brokerages have two separate accounts. They have their daily account and they have their commission trust account. Okay. The commission trust account never gets touched for anything other than commissions and holding deposits. Okay. So when Joanne collects a deposit at our brokerage, they put it in that brokerage trust account for our listings. Okay. And it is not touched until that transaction is successfully closed. All the other daily banking of the brokerage goes out of a different account. Okay. The only thing that happens is collection of deposits and payment of commissions out of that commission trust. So there's no way, and it's fully bonded and insured, totally insured account. So if anything happened to that account, or if there's some mistake or something, it's always going to be protected and covered at the end of the day, right? If the buyer is not satisfied with their home inspection, how can a seller refuse to release the deposit back to the buyer? Okay, so it happens more than you think. A deposit cannot be released unless both the buyer and the seller agree. If the seller believes that a buyer did not act in good faith, trying to satisfy the condition, so the condition of home inspection we're talking, whether it's a home inspection, financing, or condominium status certificate review, they can refuse to release the deposit. This means it stays in the broker's trust account until a judge decides who gets it, which can take years. As a precaution, buyers can consider making two deposits in their offer, a small one of 1% if the offer is accepted, and a second large deposit once the condition is satisfied. A lot of times that won't fly nowadays with the bidding wars. Back in the day, this used to work, even 5 years ago. This doesn't work so much now. And it's true. I've seen deposits held for years and years. I had it happen to one of my clients, actually. We were purchasing a condo townhouse at Centennial over here. And what had happened was there was a lien on the property. And I was so surprised by this because I had already been doing real estate, I don't know, 10 years by this point. And the lawyer went to go check 2 weeks before closing, and there was a lien on the property. So the lawyer says, well, we're unable to close. So we went to the seller, and the seller, it wasn't directly a lien to the seller. What it was is the condo corporation had gotten some concrete work done, and they didn't pay the contractor because they were unhappy with the concrete work done. So they were in a battle themselves. But unfortunately, when the concrete people put a lien on the condo, that lien falls over all the condos. Okay. And that seller had no way to lift it. So we were in a little bit of a conundrum. And I said, well, our buyer lawyer is not letting us close because there's a lien on the property. We're unable to close. and our seller was unable to pick the lien off. So we said, okay, we have a dead deal then. We're going to do a mutual release. Well, the sellers refused. They held the deposit for almost 2 years till they fought it out in court. And my client was stuck with their deposit at that seller's brokerage for 2 years. And we called the brokerage and everything. But the thing is that according to the brokerage trust account, they cannot release those funds unless both parties sign the mutual release. So it can be really, really unfortunate for these people, but that's what happened is they had to put their house purchase on hold for 2 years. Excuse me, until they had that deposit released by the brokerage, because the brokerage is just bound by that brokerage trust account, and it cannot be touched. It cannot be touched no matter what, unless both parties sign that mutual release and agree. Okay. So that's a whole lot of talking. Has anybody got any specific questions so far about working with their buyers, what to do? You guys have to find out what the needs of your buyers are. You have to tell your guys. A lot of times I hear, oh, they can't buy now, the interest rate's too high. Or they can't buy now because there's nothing in their budget. Or I don't know, different reasons. You guys have to be able to direct your clients to tell them what is good for them and learn how to mold your clients like that. A lot of times I have clients that go, I can't afford, I've got to wait a couple more years and save. Those are my favorite clients because I go, you know what? I'm going to tell you some good advice. Your time in the market is what matters the most. Okay. I want you to go, and this is a specific client I'm thinking of right now that I'm telling you guys about. I told them, I said, I want you to go. The kids are really young right now, and I think that you should buy, pardon me, I'm tickling my throat. I think you should buy this 2-bedroom condo, okay? I know it's smaller than what you want. I know you need a minimum of 3-bedroom townhouse, semi-detached house. Of course, you'd love to buy it. But right now the kids are little. You're going to make them share a room. Okay. And while they're sharing a room, you're going to live there for a couple of years and we're going to come back and we're going to revisit this. So we did that. They were able to keep the condo, pull some money out of it, go and buy a big, beautiful townhouse. Now we've turned around and the kids are even older and they're saying they want to buy a big detached home. And we're talking about a short span of time. It's only been about 5 years since I first sold them that condo, right? You got to work with your clients because the thing is that they get into a catch-22. They say, they make excuse after excuse. They're never going to buy. You know, when they go to buy next year, the prices are going to be higher. They're going to need to save even more money, right? So you have to learn how to mold your clients, how to work with your clients, how to help them think out of the box, right? Go to your center of influence and ask your clients right now, do you have any elderly clients maybe who are ready to downsize? Do you have any clients that have college age students that maybe want to purchase some pre-construction for them so they have a place to live, you know, when they're done school? Or perhaps they want to purchase an investment property in the city where their child is going to school instead of having that child pay rent or you know, dormitory fees, whatever. So you really have to think and help your clients along because a lot of these people don't think of these things. They might go, well, you know what? That's a great idea. Of course. Yeah, I can pull some equity on my house, buy a property in Guelph. My son's going to university there and him and his friends can all, you know, pay rent while they're living there instead of me wasting money on my child paying somebody else's mortgage and paying rent, right? So definitely think about these ways we can work with our buyers and try and lock them down. I know everybody's gotten scared with the interest rates, but the last 2 freezes have helped. You see all of a sudden our market is moving now and everybody's out there busy buying and the bidding wars are happening again and it just bursts back, right? We only last a really short time in a buyer's period, right? So right now we're back in a seller's market and you guys, lots and lots of business to be had, new inventory every day. So spring is an exciting time for real estate. Feast or famine. So you guys got to feast now. You got to get out there and get some business, right? So tomorrow in the morning, how many faces am I going to see? I've got lots of people on my RSVP list. We're going to Realtor Quest in the morning. Don't miss it if you guys can come. It's a good thing. We get to see lots of new tech that's out there. There are going to be some great guest speakers. They give us lunch. You know, we all get some swag while we're there from different booths we can pick up. Definitely RSVP to me if you guys can come in the morning. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a nice group going and it'd be nice, you know, just to get together with our office. A lot of other offices will be there in groups too. So, you know, we'll have our own clique. Everybody else good? Do you guys have any questions for me this morning? No, nobody's got any questions? All right, everybody have a lovely morning and a lovely week. Reach out to me if you need anything, okay? And I will see you guys tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Have a good week.